Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mentors for Young Men podcast. I'm Oscar Holden, and in this episode, we're going to be interviewing Kane Barron. Thanks so much for coming onto the podcast, Kane.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And just to let the people listening know, this podcast is all about helping teenagers with personal development, mindset, and confidence. And Kane, you're perfect for this first interview because you're highly successful. I know you have the UK's largest independent podcast agency and the number one podcast on How to Podcast, which I've been listening to, and it's really great. I highly recommend it to anyone wanting to start a podcast. But tell us, Kane, what are you working towards today?
A new podcast, actually. In April of 2025, so this year, I moved to Dubai to start a new business, and that means I stopped the podcast. I actually handed it off to one of our editors, Louis, who's smashing it and doing a really good job of that. I'd done sort of 300 episodes of it, but January 2026, I'll launch a new show, which is a little bit broader. It's called The Content Business. So it's a essentially it's all the questions that I want to learn. I'm sort of using it as a free mentoring experience. I want to interview all of the biggest entrepreneurs who happen to have built their businesses through being a content creator like yourself. Whether that's, they're a podcaster, they're an author, they're a public speaker, they're on TikTok, and some more controversial things. And I think that's going to do really well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
That sounds really exciting. So let's go back to when you were a teenager. What was school life like for you? Was there anything you struggled with?
Yeah, I'm very dyslexic. So it's funny, the reason I got into podcasting in the first place was my GCSE English teacher. Because when on average, it would take me, three times as long to read a page as, so I don't like using the word ordinary, but let's say the average student, if you like. So it's quite an uphill battle when you're then doing, I can't even remember what it was, like 10 subjects or something at once. It's taking you three times longer. And at the time I was sort of 15, 16, but as soon as I was 16, I started working. So it's like, you're working part time, you're trying to have a bit of a social life, but also it takes you so much longer than everyone else just to do like the bare minimum. And I didn't really want to achieve like the bare minimum. Um, so I really struggled with that massively. But it was actually my English teacher that put me onto podcasting. She was like, well, if you can't read at the same rate, then why don't you try and play a different game altogether? Like, why don't you listen? So it's like when you're doing whatever, like when you're in the shower, you're walking to school, when you're not doing anything else, like why don't you just listen? And then she gave me all these like I can't remember what they're called now, but I remember like just sort of really useful tools, like revision tools, essentially podcasts of people that were just teaching the syllabus. And it wasn't just for English, it was, a few of the different like science subjects and things that just required a lot of reading that I was just like really slow on, to be honest, really slow and struggled with. So that's what got me into it because I started as a sort of self-help tool, if you like, for GCSEs. And then it just went on to entertainment, and then I found sort of the self-help stuff that I wanted, which was personal development, sales, marketing, business, like all these other like entrepreneurship podcasts that I still listen to this day, 10 years on. But it all started with the fact that I couldn't read as quickly as anybody else, or not particularly well. And my English teacher at the time was like, "Well, why don't you try this new medium?" And it completely ended up changing what I've done. I studied to do law, and I've now gone into podcasting. So it's a very very different career that started at that point.
Yeah, so you were listening to podcasts there, but after school, how did you get into making them?
So when I was 16, so GCSEs, my part-time job, my first job was a barista. I used to make coffee at Costa, and the one that I moved to was a drive-through, Costa drive-through. And I'm 16. I want to aspire to big things. I've always been sort of pretty motivated. I didn't always know necessarily what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted something. You might resonate with that. So I like shiny things. It's the best way to describe it. So I worked in this drive-through, and on the window where you would like take payment and whatever, there was this guy that used to come round all the time. So our opening hours were stupid. We'd open like 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. Like God knows who's having coffee at 10 p.m. Well, actually, I do know nurses and drug dealers, but besides the point, like at 5 a.m. would be this one guy. Because we would open at 5. I had to be there at quarter to 2 to open up shop, and he would beat me there every day. Like he would beat me. He'd be there, sat there in the drive-through, just waiting for us to like move the cone out of the way so he could order his coffee. Guy called Rob, and he'd come around in a Porsche one day, and then he'd come around in a Lamborghini the next day, and then a vintage Ferrari the next day. It's just every day. It's like, where are you getting all these supercars? Like, what do you do? Um, and then I just started speaking to him. He told me, yeah, I made some money in property, doing this, doing that, and it's like, yeah, I've sort of retired now. He was a young guy, like in his maybe mid late 30s at the time, so young, retired. And then his answer changed when I'd say, "Oh, like, what are you doing today?" He'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to interview David Goggins, or I'm going to interview Jordan Peterson. I'm going to go interview some of the dragons from Dragon's Den." It's like, what? He was like, "Oh, I've got a podcast." Okay, so I'm about 16 this time. Um, so at the time it was called The Disruptive Entrepreneur, and that was the first business podcast I ever listened to. So, okay, this is really cool. I like this guy. And anyway, I paid attention to him because he used to tip well at Christmas, and he had these supercars, and I'm, driven to do something, and I'm like, you're the richest guy I know. I'm from Peterborough. There's not a lot going on. Anyway, that it almost fizzles away. It's like I know him, like I know of him, but nothing really happens there because I go to uni. Do A levels, 16 to 18, do A levels, go off to uni. All through school, I always wanted to go into law. That was like the big thing. Oh, I don't know why, right? I just through all of secondary school, I said that's what I'm going to do for whatever reason. Anyway, go to university, studied law, realized it was miserable. I'm going to try not to swear on this. Realized it was miserable. Um, didn't enjoy it. I did loads of work experience and realized it's mostly just filling in the same paperwork over and over and over again. So instead, I spent my time doing nightclub events. So I had no money at university. I had like £8 a week shopping budget. It was like terrible. Like I was eating some ropey chicken from like farm foods and things, but it was like whatever. Right? And my friend, he was like, "Oh, I'm doing this like club promotion thing, working for a company like trying to sell, tickets to these clubs." I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. I'll take a job." Anyway, him and I do it, and we just clean up. Well, for whatever reason, we just got a bit of a knack for it. We weren't really afraid to approach people online or in the street, sell tickets or whatever. We had a really good time, and was like, this is kind of easy. And we're not getting paid well at it. Joe was working at, in the freezing cold at 1, 2 in the morning on a Thursday when you got lectures at 9. It was, like £7 an hour or whatever. It's like we could probably do a better job. So it was like, yeah, fine, let's do it. So myself and my best friend Kudzi, that's exactly what we did. We started running nightclub events in Lincoln, which is the uni I went to. So there's all sorts of skills we learned there, sort of negotiating with club owners, digital marketing, selling tickets, in person marketing, like on the campuses, trying to sell tickets, managing staff, like all sorts of things we're just learning on the fly, whilst a little bit drunk working, to be completely honest. So it's like, to make it extra difficult. Um, and it did pretty well. Like don't get me wrong, we're not like retiring anytime soon, but like we made good money, more so than I ever did at Costa or whatever. And then wanted more and realized loads of people. I was listening to Rob's podcast, Disruptive Entrepreneur, and he'd interviewed different people, and it seemed to be that everyone I was talking to at the time, like social media management was the big thing. Do a social media agency, do a social media. That's what everybody was sort of starting to do at the time. So I thought, okay, I can do that. So I just went door knocking. So I went to university in a an older town, if you like. I don't know how well you know Lincoln, but it's quite, it's not super modern. There's lots of old independent coffee shops and restaurants and barbers and things. I just went door knocking and was like, Because I don't know if have you been to Lincoln before?
I don't think I have.
All right, basically, when you get into the high street, there's not a lot there, but there is a massive hill. Like it's called Steep Hill, because it will give you a heart attack, right? It's steep. So that was essentially my sales pitch. As I went from like top down, just started knocking on places' doors and was like, "You don't even have a website. You don't even have a Facebook page. Like nobody knows you exist unless they walk up this mega hill." And it's like down at the bottom with all the expensive, shops are. It's like that's where the likes of, a Nando's would be, or, a TGI, like a big chains would coming in because that was the expensive real estate. The small guy, they couldn't afford it. So they had to be up the hill. So I was like, the bare minimum you can do is a website or a Facebook page, a couple Instagram posts. So I wasn't selling like I'm going to get you a million views. I was just going to sell, hey, if somebody Googles you, they can see you. So that's what I did. I sold it. I took the money up front. And then I went back to my dorm and went on to Fiverr, found somebody in the Philippines to do it all for me. Philippines, Pakistan, India, basically cheap labor on Fiverr. It was like, hey, can you build me a website? Here's the brief, here's the logo. Hey, can you create me some Facebook pages? Because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know any of that. Um, so I just kept the difference. So, if I charged them 500, I might give 300 to somebody in the Philippines to build this website for me. It's like, and I kept the difference. Great. And that and the clubs, that's how I sort of made money at uni. Anyway, when I decided that that law wasn't for me and I didn't want to do this, I finished my degree. Um, we were just, this is just before COVID. Finished my degree. That's done. And I'm like, now what? I don't want to go into that. It was miserable. I finished it just to say that I did. But what do you do? And I was like, well, there's one person I know that's rich, basically, and that is Rob Moore. So I messaged him on, I think it was Instagram. I DM'd him. I actually went to look for it, and I was clearly embarrassed about it because I deleted the message from my end anyway. He'll still have it on his phone, but I deleted it because I think I assumed that like, he's never going to respond to it or whatever. So I messaged him and I just wiped it from my phone. Um, but he did. He responded, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, come for a job interview." Here's the thing. I should have known it was too easy. That was mistake number one. Because basically, he was like, yeah, sounds great. I have a couple of interviews, get the job. Like I said, like I've done some negotiations, I've done some like I've managed people, I've done some selling, I've done some outsourcing, like I've done like all these bits and bobs at uni. Like I don't know if you can do anything with that. And he was like, sure, you're 21, fresh out of university, done nothing to do with this at all. I will give you a job. Should have been a red flag, but I was too excited, I ignored it. Basically what had happened is he'd spent that whole time that I was at uni. So when I first met him to when I was at uni, he was doing his podcast. It was growing and growing and growing. And in that time, people in his inner circle, his friends started asking, like, what's this podcast thing? Like, can you help me do it? Like yours is, really big. You interviewed that billionaire and you've interviewed that billionaire. Like, I want that. And his sort of businessy friends wanted it. So Rob's very smart entrepreneur, right? Is worth like 100 odd million, right? And he got a great designer and a great editor, and basically he got all these experts in to do his podcast, but he didn't use all of their time because he was only doing a podcast a week. So they had all this spare time. So then he was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rent out their spare time to all of my friends who want a podcast. So it's like, hey, you want a business podcast? Pay me, 3 grand a year, 5 grand a year, 10 grand a year, and we'll do your podcast. And that was the exact time I messaged him. And basically, he was like, cool, here's a podcast agency, you know, good luck, go grow it. Because he was like, I'm retired. I don't want to be involved in it. I don't want to do any of this stuff. I want to be treated as a client. I want my podcast. I want it to be fun. I don't want to do it like I want to make this money, but I don't want to be involved in it. And that's essentially what I come in to do was just account management, some marketing, some sales, learning more about the industry, just learning, and doing whatever needed to be done. And that was during COVID. And that just happened to be really busy because people had free time, they had a Zoom subscription, they had, extra money that they weren't spending on other things they could use to buy a mic and whatever, and we got busy. And that was essentially the start of it. It was I met somebody out of sheer luck when I was 16, happened to build a relationship with him over a couple of years before I went to uni, and then again, sheer luck, he he replied when I pitched him for a job, and he said yes. I got a great opportunity, learned an awful lot, and then we've been working together the last 5 or 6 years. I've got equity in that company now, and we've grown it massively. I think we look after maybe 160 weekly podcasts. All the YouTube channels, the social media. So it's a huge operation, and it's grown quickly, really, over these last 5 years.
When you sent that to Rob, it must have been pretty stressful and quite scary, to be honest. And I know a lot of teenagers struggle with being too scared to do things, whether it be meeting new people or even just doing the things they like to do. What would you say to other teenagers who are might have the same opportunity as you but are just too scared to take that leap?
There were other people that worked in that Costa that didn't speak to him, didn't like him so much, didn't really give him the time of day, didn't see it as an opportunity. And they now work for one of his companies, but quite junior positions. I was lucky enough to get a more senior, unique position, and then after a year, I become his business partner. And we both invest a lot into to grow what we do. So I think the I don't have like a hack is to sort of pluck confidence out of the air, but realistically, it's like the person who did have the confidence, if you like, even though they're shit scared, to ask it, has managed to, become his business partner, fly all over the world together, speak at events, make a lot of money, meet some incredible people. And the person who sort of shied away from it ends up being sort of low level accounting team, not really doing an awful lot. Um, he probably doesn't even know that they used to serve him coffee. I know because I was working alongside them. Um, so I guess the difference is think of that outcome you want, because I think people massively, there's a famous quote that people overestimate how much they can achieve in a year, but massively underestimate how much they can achieve in 10. I didn't know I would be living in Dubai with two businesses 10 years ago when I first started serving him coffee, right? And don't get me wrong, not worth 100 million yet, not retired everybody in my family yet. There's still a long way to go. And I'm happy about that because I'm enjoying it. I'm 27 in a couple of weeks. But the difference between if you don't say anything and you don't put yourself out there, you don't get the result. So I guess you have to think like, what pain do you want to live with more? Like a little bit of embarrassment at the time. Like I said, I was embarrassed. I sent it and then I deleted it so you can see it on my phone. Like I was embarrassed about it, but I'm glad I did it. So I guess you got to think like, is the potential upside worth it to you?
Yeah. There's also a saying going outside your comfort zone, which is basically in a place where you feel safe, but you don't want to do anything that might make you feel uncomfortable or embarrass you a little bit. What would you say is your most memorable time where you went out of your comfort zone and what happened?
Okay, really good question. For me, it was when I first started posting content. I when I started, I didn't really use social media. I was way more introverted. Didn't really like it. But as soon as I started the podcast, especially, because I started an audio only podcast because that was like a confidence thing. Cool, you can't see me. I can do it from wherever. I could do audio only, great. And I did that before I did social media, before I did YouTube, before I did public speaking. And it's just sort of baby steps, almost like exposure therapy. Of like the more you do it, the realize, you soon realize it's not that bad. So the first time was, yeah, it was launching the podcast. It's like all of my friends that I'd just been to uni with a couple of years ago, and I'd never even mentioned the word podcast to them. It's like suddenly you're talking about podcasting, online. That's weird. Oh, did you not become a lawyer then? That's, whatever. So that there's quite a lot of awkwardness or embarrassment when I first did that and started talking about what I did. But tell you what, I've had no negativity from people I've ever known from anything I do. And in fact, if I do, let's say an Instagram story, the one that gets the most likes is anything to do with my work. Like it's not if I've, like if I go out to Dubai, whatever, they could be parked up outside a cafe like a Ferrari or a Bugatti, right? Take that, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no, I was at I got somebody took me, my business partner took me to the Formula One in Abu Dhabi the other day to see the final where Lando Norris won. That was awesome. No, it got, yeah, it's okay. It's like family stuff, yeah, okay. But it's like if it's a picture of me speaking on stage, or it's a clip of me promoting the new podcast that's going to be launched, or it's celebrating that we've just closed our biggest deal ever. Anything that's like business related about like the podcast and the thing we're doing always gets the most love, and that's from clients, it's from family, it's from people I used to go to school with, people that I used to work at customers. It's like I think we demonize it and we think, God, everyone's going to hate us, everyone's going to turn, everyone's going to laugh at us. So don't get me wrong, like with social media, you do get like odd negative critical messages, but it's normally people who don't know you, you know? So they're like strangers or they're bots, so you don't even know if they're real or not. It should be like some random account with no followers. So I was really nervous about that and embarrassed. But again, it's now I've got through the other side, I can confidently look back and go, best decision ever. Because if you don't talk about what you do, like how's anyone going to know what you do? For example, it's like now, everyone who knows you've got a podcast, like suddenly somebody, oh, I know somebody might want to sponsor that, or oh, I know somebody would be a really good guest for yours. But as soon as you put yourself out there, opportunities come to you because people know, they think of you, right? It's no different than if I know one of my friends is an electrician and I speak to another friend and they go, oh, I need something done at my house. I'm like, oh yeah, speak to this guy. It's the same thing, but on, like a much, much bigger scale.
I also wanted to ask you, I saw you interviewed Daniel Priestley on your podcast. He's huge in the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial world, and he's a really big figure. Did you feel nervous when you interviewed him, or did you just see him as a different person?
No, I wasn't nervous. I think I've not really been nervous to interview anyone. Um, I try not to put anybody on a pedestal too much. I think my I can't remember who told me this, but there was just like remember that everybody poos. It's like anytime like you get a bit nervous, like when you're talking to someone and you like putting them on a pedestal and you think, oh God, you're so amazing. It's like they're just human. They're just like a normal person. So I was like, okay, fine. He's just a normal guy, even though he's like my businessman crush. Um, and he was very, very nice, very charming, very relaxing. Come in and like he spent loads of time with us. But that is, yeah, that's probably top three. Maybe, yeah, yeah. Could be one of the best episodes we've done yet. We really, really enjoyed the conversation with Daniel.
Okay, so now I wanted to ask you about social media and gaming. Since social media is quite a large part of teenagers' lives, it can sometimes be quite hard to manage. How do you manage your social media, and were you ever a gamer?
Not really much of a gamer, to be honest. I think as soon as I went to university, I don't think I've probably played an Xbox or PlayStation. Actually, that's a lie. COVID, I did a bit. That's when Warzone come up. But really, other than like, I pretty much stopped when I went to uni. But that was mostly just because I didn't have time. Then with social media, like I have a team now that does a lot of it. that does like our YouTube, our edits, like a lot of that. But in terms of my LinkedIn and things like I still write all of my own content. It doesn't take much. What like it's going to be teenagers listening to this, right? So your superpower is you just know what's cool. You know what's trending. You know what works. Like the fact you spend so much time on social media is essentially revising. I mean, I'm sure your parents don't like me saying this, but it's like it is. Because every single time you're doom scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you're just watching, it's like you're not even noticing, but your brain is picking up on patterns. And it's like, okay, there's this trend that's happening, there's this music that's happening, there's this edit style that's happening, these captions are, and you know what's relevant, you know what's cool. That is your superpower because you can talk about literally anything from how to get better at public speaking to something to do with like FIFA, or hey, this is my, it can be gaming content, it can be reactional content, it can literally be anything. Like it's just getting your personality across, essentially doing it with a bit of confidence, and that's fine. And just pick a platform, just pick one platform. TikTok's the easiest. TikTok's the easiest to get views on if that's what you care about. But you won't ever regret building attention. Once you've built some sort of attention and following, you can control that group of people and you can monetize that group of people. A great example is KSI. He starts doing, like reactional content, mostly FIFA. And now look at him. He's had a music career, he's had a boxing career. He's big part in building like the Sidemen. He's then off the back of that built, a vodka brand. And it's like, then they've got that membership site. It's like, once you've got your attention, so essentially it's like, I might come here because, right, let's say loads of people come and listen to Oscar for this podcast. It's like, cool, I'm a teenager. I want to learn how to level up. I'm going to look for some inspiration. I'm going to listen to Oscar's podcast. And then over time, it's like, I really get to know your personality. I get to know your opinions. I like the questions you ask. And so people come for selfish reasons of, hey, I'm going to listen to this podcast because I'm a young man. I want to level up. Right? I'm coming for answers. But then I fall in love with Oscar. And then maybe in a couple of years, Oscar goes on to another thing, right? It could be a new podcast, different topic. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be a book. It could be extra. But now you've got this core audience. They will then follow you to your next thing and your next thing and your next thing. And as long as you maintain the ability to stay relevant and reinvent yourself a little bit and you don't get stagnant, like that is probably the best time you could ever spend. You'll make so much money and everyone will think you're sick. Everyone will look up to you if you've got a big following. It's just the way the world works.
And on that topic of social media, sometimes for teenagers, they can get quite a lot of negative feedback on there, and how they process it depends on how much it affects them. Have you ever had any experiences with people being negative towards you, and how do you change that into something you build off of?
So I do a thing called post and ghost. Upload it, log out, don't look. Like on my phone, right, I have two notifications on. No, three. I have text messages, WhatsApp, phone calls. The only notifications I get on my phone, I mean, even now it's on Do Not Disturb. Most of the days on Do Not Disturb anyway. But even when it's not, all other notifications are off. Instagram, LinkedIn, email. I can't see it unless I go looking for it. So I think, firstly, people get a lot less negativity than they think they will, but you will get some. At some point, you will. And I'd say it's a positive. If you're not having any hate yet, you're not big enough. You're not impactful enough. You're not cutting through. You're sort of irrelevant. You're a bit beige. You're on the fence. Like people don't know you yet because it is impossible to please everyone. Right? And if you want to do something meaningful, like for example, this is all right. As this next iPhone. Cool. The biggest company in the world, worth trillions. But there are still like a billion people that'll be like, hate iPhones. Gross. Awful. I like my Samsung. I like my Google Pixel. Or there'll be, I don't know, McDonald's, and then on the other side there'll be a load of vegans that go, I hate McDonald's. Like, it doesn't mean it's not awesome. It doesn't mean it's not successful. So it's like you just can't please everyone. So A, it's not as bad as your head makes you think it's going to be. I promise you. But B, it is going to happen, and that is okay. That's part of it. That's a good thing. Don't take any notice of it. What they say has no real meaning because for every single person that says, you know, I don't like this thing, there'll be as many, if not more, that goes, I love this thing. All right. So you just got to remember that and remember why you're doing it. You're not doing it for these other people. And if they don't like it, that's fine. The other thing is if they are commenting crap, that's just going to help boost it in the algorithm so then more people see the good of you. Right. So for example, if I really like, perhaps I've not stumbled across you yet, Oscar, but I'm in a place in my life, as a teenager where I really need picking up, and I haven't seen your podcast yet. It's like a couple of people that I might be friends with or I follow, they might comment on your podcast saying, on one of the clips of the podcast going, "Oh, that's a bit crap. Oh, don't like that. Don't like that Kane guest, whatever." Right now, that comment might be the thing that then gets that on my feed. That then I now see it, and I'll look at it and be like, "Oh, you're wrong. I really like Oscar and Kate. I really like this conversation. I'm going to listen from now on." So it's like every single comment, negative or positive, is going to help put you in front of the right people. So that's a win in my eyes.
And my next question is, who inspires you right now? Because do you still have a role model, or does that feeling kind of fade away as you become more successful?
Yeah, I have a few. Rob is one, Daniel Priestley is another, Alex Hormozy is another. Um, and then I think on like a big scale of like people to model and look up to, because at the moment my primary drive is business and entrepreneurship. But I do have I almost have micro role models. So, for example, I like to surround myself with people that are doing great things. So it's like, hey, I want to get in better shape. Might hire a personal trainer, and they might be my role model in some place for it. A little bit. I'm like, hey, look, you're just like a quote everyday guy. Like you're from my area. You're similar age to me. Like, why aren't I in as good shape as you? Because like we grow, we're in the same area, same age. Like, why am I not working hard enough? Or it might be that I want to be more empathetic and compassionate, and then I look at my girlfriend and think, yeah, I could really learn that from you. So I have like my big level ones for my big goals, which are those three guys. But I do find myself that I sort of go through these like 6 month stints of I'm trying to improve something, whether it's fitness or compassion or patience or whatever. And that there's just somebody in my life that I think you're really good at that, and when I'm being challenged in that time, like let's say something's really testing my patience, I just think, what would that person do? Like how would they deal with that situation? I like that about them. I want that for me. And then I sort of put myself in their shoes and go like, what would that person do? So I think, yeah, it's great having your big global icon, the person on Instagram with 10 million followers, but also like who who are you surrounding yourself with in real life, in day-to-day life, where you go, actually, I really like that attribute from you. I really like that attribute from you. I really like that attribute from you, because it will rub off on you very quickly.
And another thing is, do you ever wake up feeling unmotivated? And if you do, how do you push past that?
Not anymore. To be honest, I used to in school. I think I sometimes feel I'm motivated towards specific tasks, and I might procrastinate with that one task, but I will do something else towards the greater vision. So, like for me, I hate anything to do with accounting, and admin, but anything that's going to put cash in the bank, anything that's going to grow us to a bigger audience, anything that's going to expand our network, like I love doing. So I guess I- it's okay to feel unmotivated in certain aspects. I feel like no, don't get me wrong, this is just one guy's opinion, but I think if you wake up and you just go like, I can't be asked for this at all, just none of it, I think you're probably doing the wrong thing. I don't think like I'm undecided on my opinion on this. I don't think I necessarily believe in like the go follow your passion thing because I think there has to be a market for it. Like you can't, and you have to, and you also have to be good at it. I don't think you can always just like go do the thing you want. Um, but then again, with your audience, they're young enough that they've got time to get good at pretty much anything. If I was talking to somebody who's 50, I'd be like, "What are you good at now?" Because time's running out, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But with the two companies at the moment, I love it. Like I really do love what I do, and that does help so much. It's not something that I think what I'd say is try as many different things as possible. Because when people say like do what you love, people always think of like the sports they play and the hobbies they have. Like, oh, great, I'm going to be like a Twitch streamer for this, or I'm going to go be a professional footballer. It's like it doesn't have to be your childhood hobby. There are things that you will just like. Some people listen to this will go into a career of sales and they love it, or somebody will be like a forensic accountant because they love problem solving and they love numbers and they're highly intelligent. It's like nobody growing up says that I want to be a tax accountant. But I do know some people that love that and they love numbers and they love loopholes and they love solving problems. It's like, but by trying lots of things, you go, oh, I actually really like this bit. Now, there'll be bits of it that you don't like, but that's okay. So if you complete, like in short, if you hate everything, like if you're waking up and you go, there's not one part of this project I enjoy, change it. I think if you find a mission that's important enough, and you find enough aspects of that that you like because you can outsource some of the other bits when you get more established, like you'll always wake up motivated.
I also wanted to ask, throughout your whole journey, was there ever a point where you felt like quitting?
No,
Really? Wow.
no,
How do you manage to
I
keep going?
I think it's a really good question. It's just not wired. I'm not wired that way. It's just not an option. So if I quit, then what would I do? Like it's like and then what? It's like I like the thing that I'm doing. Well, I also like problem solving. So the frame I like to use as well is when things are really shit, I do think to myself, this is going to make a great chapter of a book. Or in 10 years, when I'm being interviewed on the podcast, this is the story I will tell. Because as much as it would be nice to wave a magic wand and you're instantly successful with all the following and the millions of pounds, like that is kind of boring, you know? I I don't want to be broke and on my ass, but I'm okay with not being like filthy, filthy rich right away because I want to be able to build. Like that's the fun bit. So yeah, when things are rough, never once thought about quitting, but I do always remind myself, A, why am I doing this in the first place? B, it'll make a great chapter in the book or podcast interview. And I think if you are really considering quitting something, then you might just need to build up a bit of resilience, or it's the wrong thing for you. But the mistake you must avoid is you don't want to live the same 6 months 20 times. Because here's the thing, when you're new to something, you don't know how hard it's going to be, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. So you start a project, whether it is a sport or a business or whatever, you you have no idea how difficult it's going to be. And that's for a good reason. Because if you did know how difficult it would be, you would never start it. If you was gonna start a sport and it goes, oh, in 2 years you're gonna pull your Achilles and you're gonna be out for 6 months, it's gonna be excruciating pain. When you start a business, oh, you're gonna be sued, you're gonna have all these refunds, you're gonna have, your best employee leave you and take some of your clients. You would just, if you had that magic crystal ball, you would never start. So you need to be a bit ignorant. The problem is people start, it's okay, then it goes south, then you quit and then you start a new thing for 6 months. And you keep repeating the process and you don't get beyond 6 months into a new venture, and all of a sudden 10 years has gone past. Whereas if you just stuck through it, you'd be a lot further along.
I mean, you have kind of predicted my next question about failure, so I must be on the right track with something. But I wanted to ask, what's one failure that taught you the most throughout your whole journey?
Good question. I've not really had a major failure. I've just started things later than I should have done and not gone as all in on things. I was a bit more wary than I should have done. Content being one of those. And then all of a sudden, when you start seeing results, your brain can't help it. But all it does is go, what if you started earlier? What if you put more work in? Like my parents always said that. Like again, being so dyslexic and really struggling with school, like they always said, like the result doesn't matter. Like we don't care. The only thing that matters is like if you leave, do you know for your own sanity you did everything you could do? Because if you leave and the answer is no, and you think deep down I could have done more, it's like you're gonna really struggle to deal with whatever result you get, and you're gonna feel terrible. Whereas if you go into it and go, I did literally everything I could, and I didn't get a good result, it's like that's okay. There's other things out there for you. So I think like I've not really had like a big major failure in that. All my team has walked out on me, or I left that great member of staff left me that I didn't want them to, or I've been sued, or I've lost all my money. Like, and the reason why things have generally gone pretty well so far is because I always surround myself with great people. I've had the mentorship from Rob this whole time, all the people he's introduced me to. I've always had a very, very good team, and I've always had great friends and family around me as well that have always believed in me. So it's like I've not. There are some entrepreneurs that have a very different story, and they've done everything by themselves. They've made a ton of mistakes. They've lost loads of money. They've been to prison. They've been sued. I've not experienced that because luckily I've had people that are ahead of me. You go, here are the mistakes you need to avoid. So that's like my biggest piece of advice. Like go find those people for you. For that reason, my biggest mistakes is I've sometimes played it too safe, and I've not gone in enough. I've not worked hard enough, and that is still a hard pill to swallow because you think, where could you have been if you did this a year earlier, like you was meant to?
I guess it just really makes you think if you're trying hard enough, and it would probably be quite hard to think I could have done more and it might have worked out.
It's challenging. I think deep down if you did everything. Did you work hard enough?
Okay, my next question is, what are your goals over the next few years?
Great question. Something I've been speaking to Ash, my other business partner, a lot about. Okay, I, so I have one goal right now, and that is for our new company. So we've got disruptive media in the UK. We have pod partnerships in the UAE. It's me and Rob in the UK company, and it's me and Ash in the Dubai company. Ash and I want to be synonymous with the word podcasting in the Middle East. You don't say the word podcast without somebody going, you need to speak to Ash and Kane. That means training courses, it means our new podcast, it means studios, it means every single brand who's sponsoring podcasts out here is doing it through us. It's everything, top to bottom throughout. That is the goal, and that is happening right now.
I'm sure you'll smash that. I also wanted to ask, how do you personally define success? Because I know it's different for each individual person. So, what would you say being successful means?
Have you asked this question to other people before?
Not on interviews, no.
Okay. Reason I ask is because I want to know the answer to this as well. I want to know what other people think. because it's a question I've asked myself, and to be honest, I don't really know. I think obviously there can be success in different arenas, right? So you've got your relationships, you have physical fitness, you've got your business, you've got money. Money is just an easy metric to count, right? But I find it really difficult to define. Like it's a fantastic question. I think I don't know. I don't have a definition. But what I feel, or when I the times I feel successful is when I have momentum. Like I heard somebody talk about this. I can't remember who it was. He goes like, if you were, all right, let's call it let's just use, let's say, like money or sports, for example, or like it doesn't matter. Something where there's like a clear ranking system. If you were 50th last year and you were 20th this year, you would be on top of the world. You would feel amazing. You would feel successful. Whereas if you was first last year and you were second this year, you would feel terrible. All right. Even though you're still much better than 20th. You're number two. It's like, yeah, but I was number one, and I feel like I'm going backwards. And that must be really common in athletes. They're on the top of their game once upon a time, and now 5 years go past, they're a bit age, and now you've got these 18-year-olds running laps around them. So, so I can't define success, but I feel successful when I have positive momentum. Even if I haven't got all the money in the bank, things are growing, we've got opportunities coming, things are generally going in the right direction. That's when I feel my most successful.
Yeah, I guess successful is kind of more of a feeling than a physical thing. You know when you're successful, but you can't tell what you have to do to get there.
Yeah, 100%.
And my next question is, do you think anyone can achieve anything if they set their mind to it, or are some people just made to do good things?
Um, you can have anything you want, but not everything you want. So, yes, you, I think you can achieve anything. I think anybody can achieve anything to an extent, but you must face the trade-offs that might be. For example, let's say you've got somebody who's highly intelligent and wants to code the next viral app. And then you've got somebody who's doesn't know how to code, right? They're dyslexic. It's going to take them 3 times as long than the average person to read, but you're a genius, so it's going to take 6 times longer than you. It's like, could they code the same app and have the same effects? Yes, but it's going to take you 6 times as long because you've got a different brain. Or they know somebody who knows somebody and you don't. You've got the cards you're dealt, right? And you've got to know the trade-off. So it's that some people will get there more easily than you, but you will always have an advantage that they don't. Every upside has a downside. Every downside has an upside. There's always an opposite. So you can achieve that if that's what you want to, but are you okay then giving up all your social life? Are you giving up maybe where you live? And actually, no, you need to move to another country where you need to move to San Francisco or Dubai, like where the opportunities are, like even if it's just to London. So, yes, anybody can achieve anything, but you have to know what your trade-offs are and you have to be willing to make them. But you can't have everything. If you want this business, that business, this business, happy relationship, live where you want, do this, do that, like you can't have it your way. You can pick the one thing that you want, and you can definitely, anybody can definitely have at least one thing. Doesn't mean you can't have more, but you can definitely only, as a minimum, you can have one.
I also wanted to ask you a question about AI. How much do you think AI will change things in the future?
I'm not smart enough to answer that question. It will put people out of work, but it will put more people in work. I think we're always scared of technologies. A social media manager wasn't a thing 10 years ago. You know, a funnel builder wasn't a thing 10 years ago. As new technologies develop, there are new products and stuff. A podcaster wasn't a job 10 years ago, right? So just new things develop when new technologies develop. So yes, some people will be put out of work, new jobs will appear. Is what it is. How will it develop? I don't know, but I'm excited about it. And I think anybody in your generation needs to be spending a really good amount of time. I spend at least 2 hours a week where I talk to ChatGPT and Gemini. Do use both, and I get them to teach me about AI. What new platforms are out? What are people talking about? Based on what you know about me, like what platform should I be using? How does it work? And I just get AI to teach me how to use AI. Because nobody has time to keep up with all the things that are happening. Maybe follow a few AI accounts on TikTok as well. I follow a few of those. So then they just break down, here's the new tools, here's how this thing works. Because I think if you can understand that, A, you'll always be employable, but B, if you want to start a business, then it will help massively. Like my business in Dubai, me and Ash were laughing yesterday. We said, like, how on earth anybody started a business 25 years ago? We have no idea. But with about three automation tools, a couple of AI tools, and the three of us, we're doing the work that would have taken maybe 35 people 25 years ago. And there's three of us, which makes the business highly profitable and, much easier to manage.
Definitely. And also, what would you say is your all-time favorite quote, if you have one?
Good question. The one that I've never really thought about, like, what's my favorite quote. I've not thought about it like that. But the one I end up saying to myself the most is what we were just speaking about, which is you can have anything you want, just not everything you want. When things
Yeah,
get difficult,
I had to physically search up quotes to find my favorite one. I don't really have one in mind at all times.
no. What is your favorite quote?
You might be on the right track, but if you don't start moving, you'll get run over. I can't remember who it's by,
I
but
like
that's just
that.
the one that I remember.
It's true. It's about momentum, right?
Yeah. And uh, on a final note, if you look back to your 15-year-old self, what advice would you give the younger version of you?
To be honest, just do what you're doing. I have, I don't have any regrets of the last 11 years. And I'm very happy with the path that I'm on. So it's just carry on what you're doing. However, so that people can take something away from that, what was it that I was doing? It was what you were just saying, which is momentum, just trying lots of things. But it was, and this is exactly what we've done with our business out here. It's just as meet as many people as possible. Every single person, you know, I, it was one of Rob's books. I can't remember which one, but I remember listening to it, audiobook, uni. Talks about the 6 degrees of separation, which is actually a lot less now because of the internet. Essentially, you are 6 people away from anyone in the world, but a lot of people think it's about 3 or 4 now. So it's, I know you, you may know someone, they may know somebody, and their cousin is somebody in the royal family. So the more people you meet, the less degrees of separation you are from people. All right. Now, everyone in a world of AI, remember the human. The more human you are, for example, we do a lot of workshops. Could do them online, could have more people on them, we could make more money. but they're not memorable, they're not fun. Let's do them in person. Let's have a real human connection. Let's go out for dinner as well after. I like doing I do Riverside is actually my sponsor. I do virtual interviews, but man, if I can, I want to do it in person because I really want to build a rapport with you if possible. Not always possible, but if I can. So I think the more people you really meet, not just meet, but like really get to know, will be will open every door you want and could ever possibly need. So it's like that's the one thing, just like get out there as much as you can. Go to events, start a podcast like this where you can interview people, start building a following on TikTok, but just get out there and meet people. That's what every opportunity I've had was basically handed to me by somebody I've met.
I really like that. And now, just to finish up, where can people find you on your socials, Kane?
I am Kane Baron, KaneBaron on everything. LinkedIn's my main place, I'd say now. And the content business launches in January. I don't know when this goes out, but yeah, new podcast out end of Jan.
Cool. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much again for coming onto the podcast. It really means a lot. I'm sure you'll have inspired loads of people from this interview. You've definitely inspired me. And I wish you the best of luck on your business venture. And yeah, see you soon.
Well, you've smashed this. Thank you for having me, and good luck on the podcast.